Good morning. I'm Bill Saley, the Acting United States Attorney for the Central District of California. Today, we are announcing the arrest of 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht for igniting a fire that ultimately burned down the Palisades earlier this year, killing 12 people, destroying more than 6,800 structures, both homes and businesses, and damaging over 1,000 more buildings. The complaint unsealed today charges the defendant with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year federal prison sentence and is punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison. The defendant was arrested yesterday on a federal criminal complaint near his Florida residence, and he's expected to make his initial appearance today in the federal court in Orlando, Florida. I stress that the complaint contains allegations and every defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The allegations in the affidavit are supported by digital evidence, including the defendant's ChatGPT prompt of a dystopian painting showing in part a burning forest and a crowd fleeing from it. And we're going to put that up on the screen here once we get that going. The allegations are, there it is. That's from his ChatGPT. That's an image he produced a few months before the fire started. It shows the city being burned there. The allegations are further supported by the defendant's cell phone, his false statements to law enforcement, and his behavior during the Lockman fire, which the defendant is charged with maliciously starting shortly after midnight on New Year's Day of this year, and which eventually became the Palisades Fire. Late last New Year's Eve, Rinderknecht returned to Pacific Palisades after working the evening shift as an Uber driver. 2 of his passengers told law enforcement that he appeared agitated and angry that night. After dropping off a passenger in Pacific Palisades, Rinderknecht parked his car and tried and failed to contact a former friend. He exited the car, walked up a nearby trail, took iPhone videos at a nearby hilltop, and listened to a rap song whose music video included objects being lit on fire. The defendant had listened to this song and watched its music video repeatedly in the days leading up to the Lockman fire. 12 minutes into the new year, environmental sensing platforms indicated that a fire had started. It took the defendant several tries to contact 911 to report the fire. He fled the scene in his car, but turned around after passing fire engines driving in the opposite direction to fight the fire. While the Lockman fire burned, the defendant walked up the same trail from earlier that night to watch the fire and firefighters, using his iPhone to take short videos of the scene. Although firefighters suppressed the blaze, the fire continued to smolder and burn underground within the root structure of the dense vegetation. So that fire started on January 1st. And it smoldered underground for about a week until on January 7th, heavy winds caused this underground fire to surface and spread above ground, causing what became known as the Palisades Fire, one of the most destructive wildfires in Los Angeles City history. Law enforcement got to work and by January 24th had identified and interviewed the defendant. During his interview, he lied about where he was when he first saw the Lockman fire, claiming he was near the bottom of a hiking trail. Geolocation data for the 911 calls showed that he was standing above the fire in a clearing merely 30 feet from the blaze as it rapidly grew. As the world watched in horror as the Palisades fire burned, victims perished in the smoke and flames. Homes where cherished family memories and belongings were turned to rubble and ash. The iconic Pacific Coast Highway along Malibu looked like a war zone. Thousands of people were forced to evacuate. Though homes and businesses cannot be rebuilt, this arrest, we hope, will provide a measure of justice to all those who were impacted. We're going to do questions at the end, and we're going to get into more detail. But I want to thank the outstanding partnership we had in getting this case to where it's at. Thanks to the work of the ATF and investigative support from both the LAPD and the Los Angeles Fire Department and the U.S. Forest Service for their hard work in this investigation. I'm going to turn it over now to Kenny Cooper, who's the special agent in charge of the ATF Los Angeles Field Office.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Kenny Cooper. I'm the special agent in charge of ATF's Los Angeles Field Division. Today marks a significant moment in a long road to justice for our community. After more than 8 months of tireless, meticulous work, I stand here with our partners, proud to announce an arrest in connection to the devastating Palisades fires that claimed lives, destroyed homes, and shook this community to its core. Jonathan Rinderknecht, age 29, residing in Melbourne, Florida, was taken into federal custody by ATF special agents, a Los Angeles City Fire Department investigator, and a Los Angeles police detective. This partnership and arrest is significant in the three agencies working hand in glove to get this investigation to where it is. Rinderknecht, as the U.S. Attorney mentioned, is charged under Title 18-844F, malicious destruction by means of a fire of real property owned by an organization receiving federal financial assistance. I know this community has endured a long wait for answers. Families have carried an unmanageable grief, and an entire community has been left to heal while living with questions. Although we cannot share every detail of this investigation, it is still an active investigation, and judicial proceedings remain ahead. I can tell you this: from day one, ATF and our partners have been relentless. We made a promise to find answers, and we have kept that promise. To give you a sense of the work, I want to highlight the extraordinary level of cooperation between ATF and our partners: the Los Angeles City Fire Department, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Orange County Fire Authority, and the United States Forest Service. LA City Fire asked for our assistance, and within 24 hours, ATF's National Response Team arrived on scene. The NRT, ATF's NRT, is an elite team comprised of certified fire investigators, electrical and fire protection engineers, chemists, accelerant detection canine teams, and other experts. We arrived within 24 hours and got to work with our partners. We processed hundreds of acres of damaged fire, examining every inch for the smallest clue. Over the course of the last 8 months, investigators conducted hundreds of interviews, including witnesses overseas, and pursued more than 200 leads. We collected more than 13,000 items of evidence, including fire debris, digital data, DNA samples, all analyzed by ATF's state-of-the-art forensic lab. Our team carried out 500 scientific tests, supported by ATF's Fire Research Lab, the nation's only large-scale fire science lab dedicated to fire investigations. More than 10 of our top engineers and support staff contributed to this laboratory analysis. This investigation has been documented over 300 ATF reports, including a 200-page report detailing the origin and cause of this investigation. ATF technical surveillance specialists were integral in reviewing approximately 1.5 million phone records and data extracted from digital evidence. And I highlight this because I know there's questions on the length that it took us to come to this conclusion. But we were reviewing a lot of evidence from one of the most catastrophic fires in the U.S. history. Through this extraordinary team effort, investigators determined that the Palisades Fire, reported on January 7th, was caused by an intentionally set fire near a viewpoint along the Temescal Ridge Trail in Topanga State Park on January 1st. The fire was a holdover fire, meaning it was deeply seated in dense vegetation and roots and continued to burn undetected until catastrophic weather ensued, resulting in the Palisades Fire. Rinderknecht is now charged with setting the January 1 fire. We know this arrest cannot erase the pain or grief or losses endured, but we hope it is a step forward. It is proof that justice will not be forgotten, that our accountability will be pursued by ATF and our partners, no matter how complex the investigation and no matter how long it takes. To the families who lost so much, we hear you, we honor you, and we will continue to fight for you. The ATF established an email address for the victims and witnesses to contact ATF Victim Witnesses Assistance Program through the Palisades at atf.gov. Once again, I'll say that, the Palisades at atf.gov. Based on the information received, a regional victim witness specialist may contact you. That's my initial statement. I'm going to hand it over to the Chief of LA Police Department, Chief McDonald, and I will be open to questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I want to begin by thanking the U.S. Attorney's Office, our partners at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the dedicated men and women of our Robbery Homicide Division and Major Crimes Division. I also want to recognize and thank the Los Angeles City Fire Department and all of the investigators who came together to support this case. You look at the team standing here, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that was done throughout this investigation. It was extremely intensive and thorough, and the best of the best were working on it, and I'm very thankful for the partnership we enjoy with all of them all the time. The investigation into the Palisades Fire of January 2025 was lengthy, complex, and as I mentioned, extremely thorough. Our detectives responded immediately to the initial incident and worked side by side with our partners at the Los Angeles Fire Department, and once the ATF's National Response Team took on the case, they led the investigation, and our detectives remained fully engaged as partners every step of the way with them. I'm proud of the professionalism and dedication shown by our detectives and the team who work collaboratively with our federal, state, and local partners. That teamwork ultimately led to the arrest of the suspect responsible for this devastating crime. The Palisades Fire was a tragedy that caused enormous harm to the city of Los Angeles. But in the midst of that devastation, we saw something else. Communities coming together with law enforcement, supporting one another, and working through a very, very difficult time. This case is a reminder of the value of strong partnerships across every level of government. When we stand together, local, state, and federal, we are stronger, more effective, and better able to deliver justice for our communities. I'm deeply grateful to everyone who contributed to this investigation, and I look forward to continuing this strong spirit of collaboration as we work to keep Los Angeles safe. Thank you. I'll now turn it back over to U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We will be unsealing the complaint if it hasn't been already. It has much more details than what we've gone over today in there, and that'll be available to you. At this time, we will take a few questions.
How did Rinderknecht start?
Okay, we'll start there.
How did Rinderknecht start the fire? And in the investigation, as investigators spoke to him, what did he specifically say was the reason behind it?
I'm not going to get into his specific statements. I can tell you ATF has determined that the fire was ignited with an open flame. Yeah.
Did this gentleman ever live in the Palisades, have any direct connection to the Palisades? Was he familiar with these trails, this area?
Yeah, he was familiar with this particular neighborhood, and he had a friend who lived in this neighborhood. So he knew this neighborhood.
He never specifically had lived there?
He was a resident of Southern California. Do we know what city he lived in? Or... Okay. Yeah, he actually did live in Palisades, and he was familiar with the neighborhood in which this started.
And are you using the word arson?
Yes, it's arson.
We
yes.
know that fireworks.
Yeah, let me go here.
Do you know that what was the protocol taken around the initial fire on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day? Was there precaution taken to try and make sure that fire was put out properly? I mean, that's quite a stretch between when that ended and then the next fire.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the full fire response. I'll just tell you the fire department did respond, and they don't say they put out fires, they suppress the fire. So they use the best of their abilities at that time to suppress it. Like we said, there was dense vegetation. The fire went underground, and, I'm not a fire expert, but there's only so much apparently you can do about that. So it did smolder there until a week later, in which the winds picked up and reignited. So that's our understanding of it started.
Did he have some
Let me go for it here.
So did he move to Florida after this? Or
He relocated, yes.
Can you say a little bit more about what he was doing there? If he had been living in Palisades, was he camping? Was he hiking? Was he...
He just finished an Uber drive. So he just dropped someone off in that vicinity on an Uber drive. He was an Uber driver. He dropped someone off. He was in this neighborhood, and he was, this is New Year's Eve, so it was around midnight, and he went up to this hilltop. And at some point up there, around 12:12 a.m., he ignited a fire.
Residents that we spoke with reported and had video of fireworks during that same period of time. Initially, I believe it was a group of kids that were there. Are you saying that the suspect here potentially set off those fireworks? You're saying open flame?
We have no evidence that any fireworks were set off in this area at the time the fire ignited.
Does he have prior criminal history, and has he been cooperative in this process?
Does he have his
Did
criminal
he show
history?
remorse at all?
Does he have criminal history? Yeah, he does not have criminal history. We're not going to get into his specific statements. We are going to tell you, though, that he did speak to us and he made false statements. So that we will confirm.
What about motive? You do have some things recovered from his phone that you shared. Any indication of what may motivate?
We're not going to get into motive right now because we're going to have to prove this case in court in front of a jury, and we don't want to get into that right now. We are laying out the information we have in the complaint. The evidence is based on, you could see some of the key evidence, including the fact that he was the only person in this location at the time this fire ignited. We have no other indication that any other person was there. There were no fireworks at the time. We have several cameras in the vicinity that are there designed to detect fires, and this fire was detected almost right away by those sensors. So there's no indication of fireworks or other things that would have started this. He was the only person there. You heard about this music video and song he would listen to, which had imagery of fires, and then do we have the image up? Are we having trouble with that? And you could see some of his thought process in the months leading up, where he was generating some really concerning images up on ChatGPT, which appears to show a dystopian city being burnt down. So more evidence will come out at trial, but we're not going to preview the entire case at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Is there an understanding that he relocated to Florida because he was aware that people might be looking for him or trying?
We don't have any information of that.
It's very clear that this was a thorough investigation. The question is, obviously, so many things burned here, right? So how difficult was it to gather evidence? I mean, you're saying 13,000 items were gathered following 200 leads. I mean, can you...
Yeah, I'll let ATF answer that. There was a tremendous amount of work. I mean, we literally have like terabytes of evidence. So I'm going to let ATF answer the work that was done in this case, including the lab work.
Yeah, some further perspective on the investigative process. So I know there's been speculation of other ignition sources, and I just want to assure everyone, ATF did not identify this suspect and focus specifically on this suspect. We still utilize our scientific process, and part of the lengthy time that it took to go over the thousands of acres that were burnt is we literally had agents with our partners on their hands and knees crawling through fire debris. They're observing fire behavior patterns. They're flagging patterns. An example of that, fire will cause natural debris to twist and freeze in a position pointing to the origin. So looking at all those fire patterns, flagging those, ATF was able to zone to specifically get into the origin of where that fire started from. Once they dialed into the origin, using all the investigative techniques that they have, then they start really dialing into that very specific spot that fire was created. An example of a fire research lab, they collected buckets and buckets of debris, flammable materials, natural and otherwise, found within that area, sent it off to a fire research lab. They analyzed data from the weather, including humidity, the exact temperature, the exact composition of those natural fuels found at that particular time, January 1st, at that particular time, recreated those environmental factors in our labs using their scientific process, then tested different ignition sources. And that's where 500 tests were conducted at that lab. That review process is then looked at by a panel of our experts in a peer review process to see if the science matches up with the theory and the actual evidence that was collected. I know it was also broadcast. We broadcasted it as a public safety announcement back in spring. We went up and recreated a fire very safely with our partners with LA Fire, using butane and scientific process to create the fire behavior to see. And I'll tell you, to the extent of the scientific expertise that we went through, we recreated it in the exact lunar time that the fire started, meaning the exact size the moon was, and as close to the starlit environment that fire started. So we could recreate scientifically a fire and see how fixed surveillance points saw that fire as it developed from other evidence that we collected, both from witnesses' phones, fixed surveillance points, and other data. We were able to see how that fire behaved, how it grew, the size of that behavior and that fire, and the size that it would be for witnesses to see it reported. We went through exhaustive efforts to look at potential ignition sources, whether they were fireworks, whether they were down power lines, or any other source of ignition. They went down those investigative paths with exhaustive length to either rule them in or rule them out. With clarity, we know this is an incendiary fire and that the subject that we arrested started it.
Would you say that this subject was obsessed with fire and what you those indicated problems?
Once again, that speaks to motive. That's not an element that we need to meet. That will be addressed in the trial. And we do have evidence of that for trial.
What was the rap song?
I'm not going to go into those specifics. I'll just highlight, we're not making a probable cause arrest. This team up here feels that we have met beyond a reasonable doubt. We are confident that the burden of proof by the government on this presumed innocent person will be met in trial.
Based on the AI images that you did show, what is it his intent to cause as much disruption to the town? You show the AI images for a reason, so it definitely leads to that impression. And I would just like that on record.
I wish we could get into somebody's head, but we can't. People do evil things for whatever reason. And I'm not going to speculate or go into anything of that. Like, we have evidence of that will be addressed in trial, but evil people do evil things.
Can I ask you, this is the first time we're really hearing that this is a holdover fire confirmed. Can you just talk about the key evidence in determining that it was the Lockman fire that reignited to become the Palisades fire, and that spring testing of the flame was to determine the source of the Lockman fire?
I'll let him answer that in a second. It is a French rap song. I don't speak French, so I'm not going to quote it. But it's a French song. It is in the complaint, and you'll be able to look it up there. We will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he intentionally started this fire. And maliciously. That is what the statute that we charged him requires, and that is what we prove. I'll let you answer her question about the holdover fire. Let him answer
before and stake this place out.
Your question to a holdover fire. Same principle, same process that ATF went through, is obviously the burn scar and the fire from the initial January 1st Lockman fire was re-examined by our investigators, and with complete certainty they were able to see from the same fire behaviors, from them crawling on their hands and knees, digging up roots, digging up all the evidence, supplying that fuel to the fire research lab. They were able, and also in collaboration of other data and other evidence. We have fixed surveillance points. We have witnesses that were up with their phones. We have a lot of different data that all concluded where this fire started, and the fire behavior from that origin, from that Lockman fire, was clearly established in the Palisades fire.
Were the passengers dropped off at home or at a business? I'm just trying to get a sense of where he was on his path. But I'm not going to do that.
He dropped passengers off within the residential area of that area.
Three more questions.
Why not pursue murder charges given the fact that folks died in the fire?
So right now, we've charged him on a criminal complaint. We have not determined all the charges he's going to face. We'll be presenting that evidence to a grand jury, and we will make decisions about additional charges at that time. So this is right now just a criminal complaint. We wanted to arrest him. We wanted to get him into custody, this will go to a grand jury shortly.
Did the suspect return back on January 7th? Was he in the area considering he was in the Palisades during that period?
I don't know that. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that. He did go back the same night. So the night he started the fire, he left. As soon as he saw the fire trucks were headed to the location, he turned around and went back up there. And he took some video and watched them fight the fire.
The charges that you're talking
Last question.
That's just for January 1st, right? He has not been charged with anything for January 7th?
No, he is charged with starting a fire on January 1st, which is the fire that burned down the Palisades. It did take a week to reignite, but he is charged with starting the Palisades fire. He started it on January 1st.
But that's why you got that question about the people who lost their lives on January 7th fire. Do you expect additional charges for that?
To include homicide?
This complaint covers that fire and the damages and deaths that were caused by that fire. As far as what additional charges he will face, we will make those determinations in the coming days. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. Press release is out. The complaint is out.
All right, there you have it. Bill Asaley, the acting U.S. Attorney for Southern California, speaking during this news conference along with other law enforcement. And there you see the image of 29-year-old man named Jonathan Rinderknecht. He was arrested yesterday in Florida in connection with a deadly Palisades fire that killed 12 people in January. He is expected to appear in court later on today, according to U.S. Attorney's office there. He will be making that court appearance in Orlando. He's accused of starting the Palisades fire in the early morning hours on New Year's Day, which at the time was known as the Lockman Fire. And firefighters actually initially put that fire out, but it is believed that fire was reignited due to weather conditions. We had fierce winds, if you remember, and that fire was reignited back on January 7th. It's called a holdover fire, which then became the Palisades Fire. And this is one of the most destructive fires in Los Angeles history. As you heard the acting U.S. Attorney there, Bill Asaley, say, he's charged with starting the Palisades Fire, but additional charges may come as a result of all of this. We do have someone there on the scene we'll check in with. Coco McAvoy will be joining us right after the break, and we'll continue to talk about this big story here for Southern California. We'll be right back.